one of the feelings that I've got, and I know a lot of people have these same feelings, is when the overwhelming win. And when I say overwhelming, like the margin wasn't exorbitant, right? And like you said, Trump might have picked up a few votes, but where he mostly won was Democratic voters not voting for Kamala Harris, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
the feeling that I went through, and I know a lot of other people went through, was a feeling of despair, isolation almost, to the degree of how could I have been so blind to the potential outcome of this election given my moral goodness and the things that I believed to be values that we all share in creating a society that works for everyone.
Hmm.
Those things just exiting the room in mass. And so, but the point though is that we're not totally isolated. It's just the messaging and the timing of the campaign for Kamala Harris. You know, those things were not aligned to pick up those people who just stayed home. And so we're not
Right.
necessarily alone. And we need to be very clear about that. And this is my message to all our the audience, is that you're not alone. Sure, they won, but the reality is that like we were not far totally behind. It wasn't a
No.
blowout. Like he didn't get 100% of the votes, right? And so we have to be clear about that, do whatever we need to, crack those bottles, do that rest, whatever that looks like. And then we need to get back in it and have those conversations with the folks who didn't vote. So
Correct. He did not win a mandate, even though he seems to be trying to figure out that
that's right.
when all votes are counted, did he win the popular vote? Yes. But did he win it by like 3 points like Joe Biden did or like Hillary Clinton did before? No. He's going
Right.
to win with the smallest proportion of popular votes. And even though the Electoral College, obviously went his way with all the seven swing states,
Mm-hmm.
that is not a mandate to act with fiat over whatever he wants to do in the country. My hope is that enough people will see that in the coming months, the coming year, and be like, well, I didn't sign up for that, or I was unaware that this was. And when people say that, we need to be we need to have the introspection as liberals, the introspection to not be like, well, how the hell not? I told you that this was going to
Say
be the
that.
case, and be like, oh, well, okay, how do we get you back to where you need to be? We need to be accepting that people sometimes just didn't get the goddamn message, and
Right.
be all right. Well, then how do we move forward? Because this inner fighting and yelling and blaming and all that, you know what it's going to do is that in 4 years, when he decides that he wants to run for president again, to hell with the 24th Amendment,
Jeez.
you need to have those people on your side.
Right.
They need to be with you and they need to be understanding what else is going on. The people who walked away wasn't because they hate Kamala Harris or they hate the Democrats. It was that the parties do not cater to them. So why should I be a part of it?
Right.
That's the motivation you have to change.
That thank you. Those are some real nuggets, real important things that I'm hoping through this podcast people can hear, right? Because I feel it every time I step outside and get around a bunch of people. And, people have to know that, sure, we might have lost this one for many reasons, but we still have to hold him and everything they're going to do over the next 4 years accountable. And we need to, this is kind of my ethos or like my a bit of a spiritual read from this election result is that we at least know where people are at right now, right? And
Right.
you always fix a problem or address an issue, understanding completely where the issue is and where how pervasive it is, right? And so we know that a lot of people were motivated by the immigration issue, safety issues, but also economic issues. And so we have to, as you mentioned, do the work to understand that, not only to understand that, but to elevate that and then position ourselves as the champions of that. And in all honesty, we have to show it, right? Because I think that's part of the other issue is that people have become so apathetic and willing to not exercise their right to vote, even though it's fundamentally one of their most important roles as a US citizen, because of the history of corruption or the history of broken promises, and really the lack of, I'll say systematically, the lack of education on how government. And I only
Mm-hmm.
say that because I'm an elected official. And while, yes, you want that pothole fixed as soon as possible, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time because either there's a queue of work that the department is doing already around the city, or the procurement of materials, or the hiring of a contractor, or the passing of policy to allow said thing to happen. Those things take time and they're complex. I don't know if people totally understand. I don't know if all people totally understand the magnitude of what that means. But yeah, so thank you again. Your insight is very welcomed and very insightful. So the next question I have for you, though, John, is what do you believe about the people who voted opposite of you?
That their price of eggs are still too high. I went to go purchase something today, and literally went like $6.
Right.
If I'm doing that and I, work a relatively well-paying job, my wife works a relatively well-paying job. We live in a nice area of North Carolina. I know that there are individuals who did not vote the same way as me or would have voted the same way as me if not that when they go to the store and get sticker shock. And that's part of the messaging that we have to work on, but that there wasn't explanation necessarily. And it's hard to do because I'm always of the mindset that when you're explaining, you're losing. But there is no way to get over the inflation aspect of things without explaining why the inflation happened. COVID caused a spike in demand where there wasn't supply. So then obviously items got overinflated. Those items then were sent higher because of the stimulus checks that went
Right.
out. And then to ensure that those costs weren't completely ruinous to the country and the economy and that we didn't go into a recession, we had to artificially inflate prices. Like you're getting into the weeds as to why the price of bread is $2 higher than it was in 2020. And if I'm living in an area where, the buses don't run on time and my kid is hungry and the schools are shit and bread is costing me $2 more, then why am I engaged in this system? Or
Right.
why am I going to vote for the continuation of that? I don't feel, as much as 2016, we all thought it was animosity towards the other side. I feel it was apathy this time. I don't think that they hate me. I don't think that they like me. And probably because they think that I don't like them either. But if I'm going to get right down to it, I think that they just didn't care. And the reason that they didn't care is because eggs cost $4, bread costs $5, and that was not the case back in 2020, no matter how bad a pandemic got. I feel that's the issue that was the most animating. Immigration, sort of, but if we're really going to go down, James Carville said it back in the 90s, it's the economy, stupid. Always has been, always will be. And if I am paying more now than I was 5 years ago, why would I continue to pay more? Now, are they going to get a rude awakening when things don't go down? Because that's the other side of inflation, is that the cost of bread will now remain $5. It's not going back down to three, no matter how many rules they try to circumvent and how many regulations they try to cut. You have to now 4 years from now, when bread is still $5, will you then be able to explain to people this is what we were talking about and this is how we can make it your lives better? We didn't talk enough about wage growth. How do you combat inflation? You give more people money at the jobs that they're working. You open
Mm-hmm.
up more high paying jobs. You open up jobs that are high paying that don't require you to have a master's degree.
Mm.
That is where you actually start connecting with people. And if you're not doing that and you're talking about a lot of the social issues that were very important, and I want
Mm-hmm.
this said, so yelled from the hilltops that trans issues and LGBTQ issues and women's rights issues and racial issues are very, very, very important. But if I am living in Nebraska and bread costs $5, it is not my priority. Right. But what is a priority is that if I can have to pay $5 for bread, but I'm making $78,000 by just having a GED, that can offset. And that is where the conversation needs to delve into. But we're getting into this class warfare system that I feel that Democrats are not prepared to engage.
Right. I agree. And yeah, that's so to me, it's evident in, who's now the president, right? And we can get into that. I don't know if that's this podcast episode, but I'm already thinking about
podcast. It's all right.
We got some stuff to talk about because this is where the conversation starts for what I'm doing here at Record in Progress. But the conversation really needs to go to those social issues that you talked about. Why are those things important? And reconcile. Yeah, how do you create a level of importance about these things in a way that I don't want to say overrides that, but we have to figure out the solution to some of this, right? And so that's part of my mandate over the next 4 years, like yours is, and hopefully a lot of ours is.
It was a lot of do no harm on this campaign, but Democrats in general. And there's one thing that pisses me off is that liberals don't know how to have a frickin' fight. If you're going to have a culture war fight, fucking fight it. Right. Like, you have to roll up your sleeves and start calling names. Like, you have to engage in it. You can't have this, well, we support and we're this and we wish that people would be benefited. No, I can tell them to shut the fuck up. Engage in the fight if you are. At the same time, expand the amount of items that you're talking about and expand into specifically how one subset or one group can be benefited by economic policies that benefit everyone. And that's how we've lost a lot of, the states like Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, the people out there that used to be, I was a machinist at the local place, and, the union has long been gone. And nobody is coming and talking to me about economic issues that would benefit my life. And if you're engaging in that conversation, that tends to open the door for, by the way, does your company have any rules or regulations when it comes to diversity in the hiring pool? Have you seen a displacement of individuals who are working here who happen to be female or happen to be LGBTQ? Like, you can open the door to those conversations and have bigger, larger, expounded conversations, but you have to meet people where they are. And having a one nationalized set of values and goals to then go to spread out to all 50 different states is not going to be beneficial.
Interesting. Okay. Excellent. So the next question I have is, what is the worst thing about society to you?
What was it? My favorite line from Thank You for Smoking, which is our endless appeal system. You can stay out of jail if you want, if you have the money and the power to do so. I feel like some people don't get consequences. They fuck around and they don't find out.
Right. I tend to agree and would distill that perspective to specifically our system, our judicial system here in the United States.
That our political system, the inability to hold power to account, whether out of apathy or whether out of fear. And as a country that was born out of disregarding what the power structure was in order to have a free and fair fight, to see that kind of be dissuaded by folks, I think that's what I find the worst little chord that we seem to be playing right now.
Okay. So the next question I have for you, John, is, what do you believe is one of the reasons that Trump and the largely Republican Congress was elected? And I know you've said lots of things that would answer this. Just kind of, what's your thoughts on that?
Again, I think it was apathy of the system. I don't think as much Trump won the election as the Democrats lost it. And they lost it because people stopped voting. And the reason they did that is because the messaging and the outreach wasn't there. And the reason that is because we focused too much on political pundits sitting on television and telling us what to think instead of actually going out and talking to a neighbor and understanding why they put up that Trump sign across the hallway or across the street. That I feel that is why they were able to get back. And I say they got back into power. They did not, quote unquote, win to an overwhelming mandate sized, okay, this is where it is. Like George Bush in 2004 won a mandate. He blew it, but he won with a mandate when he creamed John Kerry. This is not that. This is, I don't know what needs to happen in this country. And so that's why they are now in power. But, you know, having all the unfettered access to all the levers of the government, I don't know. I feel like Republicans, you know, they're the dog that caught the car.
Right.
All right, now what?
Right. Yeah, and we will all be watching anxiously. But yes. So here, and actually, I know the answer to this question. I would say that you did, but the question is, do you feel like you did enough to affect the election in the way you wanted to see it go?
No, I feel like I did quite a bit. Was there more to do? Probably. Will I sit on my laurels? Never again. And so I feel like I did what was required in my specific area. In a larger sense of it, I feel like as a liberal, I have way more stuff to do. I have way more work to do. And truth be told, had Kamala Harris won, would I be doing it? I think that's what necessarily keeps me up at night. But that is my question: is if Kamala Harris had won and we all got to ride off into the sunset, would I be doing the work that is actually potent and actually will mean something in a couple of years? And now I have that opportunity to engage in that work. And so I feel like there was a lot that was done. There was a lot that was missed. It's my job to figure out why those misses happened.
Excellent. That's great. So the last question I have for you, John, is
All right.
What do you want to say to the version of you 4 years down the road?
What am I going to say to them?
Yeah.
Hopefully you're welcome. But 4 years down the road, I hope turns back and says, it started here. I'm going to quote Rage Against the Machine to show you my, I guess, age and culture. One of the last lines of guerrilla radio is, it has to start someplace, it has to start sometime. What better place than here? What better time than now? We engage in fits and starts. We're very reactionary, us liberals, and not proactive and not already engaging in what needs to happen. And so I hope that 4 years down the line, me turns back to me and says, thank you for starting what it is that you needed to do, so that we could be at this moment where whomever is the nominee at that point in time is on their way to 270 electoral college votes. I hope to tell what I would tell the person 4 years from now. And are you saying that this has happened before the election or after the election?
This would technically be after the election.
So 4 years from now, after the election, is to keep it going, but also that you've done a lot over these past 4 years, I would hope, and you've engaged, and to engage with, and I say that just as a general rule now, that we have not smelled the tulips in the roses in quite some time. Everything is bleak, everything is bad. Every once in a while, my wife will come to me and say, did you hear? And I go, I did hear, and you're not supposed to be listening to the news right now. Like, I said that you weren't going to listen to that shit. And here you are telling me that, you know, Matt Gaetz is going to be the attorney general. Sit and watch the Senate hearing. But if we're going to enjoy this time in the wilderness now, we start the work, but also we need to, I think what people see who didn't vote the way that I did or just didn't vote at all, is they look at us as you're always working towards the next election and you're not engaging with the people, you're not enjoying the life. Everything always comes up to And this is the political slant of why I'm doing what I'm doing or why I'm saying I'm saying. And that's not how people operate. Young people don't operate like that. Older people don't operate like that. People at your grocery store aren't operating like that. People who are picking their kids up from school aren't operating like that. People sitting next to you at church, for the most part, shouldn't be operating like that. We need to start engaging with people on actual stuff. We need to have. So I'm a very big football fan, which is, hair on fire if you're a leftist, and football binds people. I am a very big Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I was in the city of Pittsburgh when Pittsburgh won the Super Bowl 40. Jerome Bettis, last time that he rode with the Steelers. Can you have that conversation with the guy in the pickup truck down the street? Can you talk about how many Super Bowls the Pittsburgh Steelers have won, which is 6? Can you talk about things that are outside of politics? And sports is one, churches for a lot of other folks, volunteer work, and I'm a big gardener. Something that gets your mind out of just this political phase that we seem to be in. And I am very much guilty of it, especially as my position with the Moore County Democrats and my position working on campaigns. And sometimes it's as decent a conversation of, I'm really happy that Mookie Betts was able to get his World Series ring with the LA Dodgers. If I have that conversation with 5 other, liberals, I highly doubt one of them will understand who Mookie Betts is and that the LA Dodgers won the World Series less than a month ago.
Right.
Is the issue that I hope we start delving into. Is we can have our culture wars, but we also have to engage in the other culture that is in America. We're a very broad ass country, and we need to start acting like it.
Right. And I mean, the distillation of that is like, we can't be transactional with each other anymore when it comes to politics.
Yep.
We need to be engaging each other to build community and friendships and
correct,
new families, so that the people who may not have voted or voted opposite are more connected to us and the issues that we believe should matter to all of us, right?
correct.
Not only that, us also hearing from them what issues matter to them and elevating those issues well. So it's an exchange. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Right. All right, John. Well, man, thank you so much. You obviously know your brilliance, and if you don't, I'm sure your wife.
Oh, now you're just playing hard now, man. Don't do that.
People like you, people like me, and people like everyone who's on the podcast, and it really doesn't matter, which perspectives, because I am hoping to diversify perspectives.
I was going to ask if you're going to get some conservative folks to come up on board and talk about they got viewpoints too.
Yeah, and I want to hear them, and I want other people to hear them. And even though I voted the way I voted, if you know me, I am like I'm a people person. Like, I care about you as a person. I don't care about your politics. I know that politics affect people, and that's why I'm in that realm. But at the end of the day, I don't care what you vote for, who you vote for. Like, I care that you are happy and you're healthy, and that you are finding peace in your life. Like, those are and that we're connected and can talk with one another. Those are the things I care about. And so I'm working to get some of the other side's voices on here, and unfortunately they're basking in the victory, and we're strategizing and working on our mental health, if you will. You know what I mean? So I'm saying, but we're not alone. So that's a definite takeaway here, and we need
sir.
So thank you, John. What matters is we recognize that and move forward to make a better world for all of us. So thank you, John, and have a good holiday season.
Thank you very much, Lewis. I appreciate you having me on. I feel like Democrats should learn how to curse a lot better. It's very fun. But also, thank you for having me on. Same to you for the holidays coming up. If you're a turkey eater, come contact me. I got the perfect recipe for you. 3-day brine. Right now, it's a 3-day brine. Salt, pepper, garlic. And when I say garlic, I mean you actually take garlic and you put it through a grater, lemon zest, and a little bit of onion powder. Rub it into a mortar pestle. Plop it on your bird, and you let it sit for 3 days. And then when you're ready to cook it, it's already got the juices. You make a compound butter with tarragon butter, a little bit of salt and pepper and garlic. Throw that into the underneath the skin of the bird. Hopefully you spatchcocked it, but if not, follow the bird recipe on whatever butterball you get. Throw it in there, and you will have the best tasting turkey that you've ever had.
Brother, you just gave me the keys to this Thanksgiving. So I appreciate you. And I'm keeping that in the podcast because
You
people
keep
need
it,
to
man.
know.
It's
People need
free advice. There you go.
people need to by the end of this we'll have not only a reason to come together, but we'll have a menu to come together over.
There you go. Food heals all, man. There you
that's
go.
right. Oh, so great. Have a good one, John.
Thanks again.
All right. Bye.